All right, everybody. It is Monday, and on the Bourbon Showdown today, we are talking Scotch. You heard me correctly, and if you can't tell from the dapper man sitting across from me today, it is Greg King, the National Single Malt Scotch Ambassador from Diageo, and him and I are going to be talking Oban today as we pop the top on a few bottles of our favorite Scotch, and he walks me through how the goodness got from idea to in your glass. Thank you, Greg, so much for coming on and giving me some time today.
Thank you, Jesse. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
I tried to match the occasion. Greg's in his suit. He's looking dapper. I'm in a very quickly thrown together blazer. It's almost like if we were a true detective show, I am probably the Mark Ruffalo of our detective duo. You are the young, getting it done. You've got ideas, Greg, on how we're going to solve the case. And I'm sitting there, chain smoking, talking about a divorce I just went through. Everybody's like, they're going to get to the bottom of something today. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Only without any of that exposition, we're diving into some bottles.
It sounds good. I think you look great. I'm ready to go when you are.
Happy to have you on. We're going to have fun today. We're starting with Oban. First and foremost, tell me a little bit about the brand. Can you share the history of the distillery? This is going to be, for a lot of bourbon drinkers, their first deep dive into a Scotch. So if you could, we're going to walk them through. We're going to safety step into this bottle.
I love that. So, I mean, that's a perfect segue. We always talk about Oban is one of these single malt scotches that those bourbon drinkers will enjoy. Those connoisseurs that have been drinking single malt scotch, they're all their adult life will enjoy as well. And there's a big reason for that, which we'll get into as we kind of break down the flavor profile, et cetera. But as far as a distillery, it's one of the oldest in Scotland. It's one of the smallest in Scotland. It's been around since 1794. And it sits on the west coast of Scotland. It's known as a Western Highland. So, as we kind of look at flavor profile from different regions of Scotland, the Highlands really kind of has a wide variety of flavors. But Oban is very soft, very approachable. It's one of these distilleries again that everybody seems to love and enjoy. And I say this all the time. It's one of those whiskeys that I bring to every family get together, holiday, birthday. It's just one of those that I know is going to make everyone happy that's looking to drink single malt scotch.
It is one of the more absolutely approachable scotches for the palate when you're getting started on a new spirit adventure. You just mentioned a couple different regions of the area. I love how Scotland has been able to identify and sort of let everyone follow the groups that you know what I mean? Like this falls into this territory, this falls into that territory. I feel like America, we're getting better at that. Like you're seeing it evolve from just two into the larger geographic area that we have to cover. What is like the coastal environment of Oban? How does that affect what people are going to get when they pop the top?
Coastal influence is huge. It's something we talk about quite often. There's a lot of factors. Every touch point along the way when making single malt scotch matters. Essentially, everyone is using the same three ingredients. I mean, for single malt scotch, you're looking at yeast, barley, and water. Cask maturation is a big part of the final product, the flavor that we're going to get in the glass. But being a coastal distillery, first and foremost, we're about 208 steps from the sea at the Oban Distillery. So there's just salt water in the air. There's this salty, air quality that's really going to permeate the casks. I mean, it's going to permeate the casks. It's going to permeate the air throughout production. So again, every touch point really kind of taking effect in the final flavor profile. It also will affect the climate. A lot of humidity will actually produce a low and slow profile. So we're not going to age quickly. It's going to be this long, slow simmer is the way I like to always describe it. And when you do that, you get a softer flavor profile in the end. And then, as you see, our flagship expression with Oban is the 14 year. So it's not a 10, it's not a 12. We're waiting 14 years for our flagship. And then when you have peat as well, when you're sourcing peat, depending on where that is located, if you're getting a lot of sea influence, if you're utilizing peat that has kind of that briny, salty, maritime kind of flavor already
Delicious.
to it, then you're going to get that in the final spirit as well. So there are all these touch points along the way that will affect the flavor profile from a coastal distillery. A lot of times people will say, I'll get kind of that maritime ocean flavor profile when drinking a coastal whiskey.
It lends itself to I like Oban in the summer. It is one of those that I think if it is a hot day, it stands up against that. You were talking maturation a little bit. What are the like with bourbon, with whiskey, there are different profiles that you get at different stages of the maturation.
Yeah.
What are you going to get and what are you looking for as you take it from I'm using my wheelhouse, like younger, you're getting some of the fruits from the grains, and then the older you're getting the oak from the barrel. Like using that logic, what are you getting through the different maturation points in the barrel for the Scotch?
So that's a great question. As I mentioned, we're all using three ingredients. Essentially, each distillery is going to use the same barley. There are experiments, of course. There are different strains of barley that distilleries will use, but it's all about yield. We're all using the same yeast, more or less. Again, there are experiments being done with yeast. The water source is very, very important to each distillery as well. But from a maturation standpoint, and it's one of the ways that I always describe it with American whiskeys, with bourbons specifically, you're looking at a lot of flavor influence up front. We talk about those mash bills. We talk about toast and char levels within the cask. But essentially, when you're using a new American or a new oak cask, you're essentially going to create flavor profiles that we know are going to be these vanillas and caramels. And there's these touch points, again, with American whiskeys that will affect the overall flavor profile. With Scotch whiskey, so much is done on the back end because we're all using those three ingredients, yeast, barley, and water. Now, I can walk us through production and kind of how those touch points will affect the overall flavor, but as far as maturation goes, do we want a really active cask? Do we want a virgin oak cask? Do we want a first fill ex-bourbon cask? Do we want a refill cask? Do we want a sherry cask? And all of these touch points for maturation will affect that final spirit. But the beautiful thing about single malt Scotch whiskey, and this is the beauty and the art and the science of those master blenders, master distillers, is we take that distillery character, that new make spirit distillery character, and what is going to work best for that. We want to accentuate those flavors. We don't want them to compete with one another. So if you have a very light spirit, if you put that in a sherry cask, that sherry influence is really going to overpower it, let's say. At Oban, we use refill casks, again, kind of going back to that low and slow flavor. So we want that beautiful vanilla, creamy orchard fruit note. There's some honey notes in there as well, and there's some spice in there. And that's because the touch points throughout production will start and really initiate those flavors, those beautiful orchard fruits, those honeys, those vanillas, and then we'll accentuate those with that refill ex-bourbon and European oak cask that we'll use sometimes as well. So it's really the distillery character matching that with the style of cask.
I love that. I putting it forward for what it's made, well, like what it will work best with. Like using it's taken us a minute to get there on the bourbon side where you're just now seeing those now you're seeing it a lot, but it took us a long time to get to the point where those secondary finishes were allowed in the public. It was always so many rules put on it kind of for no reason whatsoever other than because they had always been the way things had been done. And now you're seeing these secondary finishes come out and bring some of those, like exactly what you're saying. When people think whiskey, Scotch is what they think of as the OG. So the way you're talking about the pairing with secondary finishes to create the profile that they're looking for, that to hear you put it like that is just like, yeah, of course we thought we were doing something new, but we weren't. We were just doing what you guys had perfected over the course of like hundreds of years.
Well, it's funny you say that because I just did a tasting over the weekend, and those that are new to the single malt Scotch category, I'm having the conversation more and more with those secondary finishes that they're seeing with the American whiskeys, and it makes them more comfortable. To your point, it's like, oh, I've seen this before. I've liked such and such brand that does a sherry cask or a port cask or a wine cask or whatever it may be, and then you can kind of have that conversation. Again, talking to the bourbon drinker, bringing them over to the single malt scotches, and there's some comfort to it because they know what that flavor profile is going to be, or they can kind of envision what they're going to get out of that bottle.
That's why it still surprises me it took so long for the American single malt to become its own category. Like in terms of you're looking to get a consumer onto a product that they already have some recognition or some comfortability with. Like Scotch is the you know what I mean? Like it's the OG. So it always baffles me a little bit that it took the American single malt so long to catch up with something with such a tried and true track record.
Yeah, it's a fun time. I mean, I always say we're in the golden age of spirits for sure, and
1,000%.
a lot of creativity and exploration as far as flavor profile, and I think consumers are starting to realize that. I think they're very, very lucky. We kind of look at these golden ages from decades past as the time, and I'm in a very lucky situation where I get a chance to try from time to time older age statements or whiskey that was matured and produced in the 70s, 80s, that sort of thing. And there is quite a difference. But as far as the options that we have today, it's probably the most we've ever had.
It's a fun time, and I love the fact that everybody's along for the ride, that your experimentation is through the roof right now, and it's just leading, and it's not just it's horizontal, it's vertical, it's lateral, it's bilateral. Like everything that produces a solid flavor profile is being given its day in the sun, and a lot of it is pulling from tradition. And we were talking about how so let's go back to the beginning. Like bourbon, there are very specific rules that make it a bourbon. You mentioned the three. Basically, it's the same items being used the same way. And what does it take to be considered a Scotch whiskey? Like bourbon, it's 51 corn and a new American oak barrel. Like, tell me some of the parameters around making it a Scotch.
Sure, sure. And that's a question we get all the time. So first and foremost, the easy answer to that is it has to be made and matured in Scotland. That's the foundation to our product. Again, for single malt Scotch, you're using three ingredients: yeast, barley, and water. It has to be matured for at least 3 years in Scotland. It cannot be bottled at less than 40% ABV. And it can't be distilled higher than 94.8. So as long as you follow those rules, if you're a distillery in Scotland, then you are making single malt Scotch whiskey.
And when it comes out at three, like I know America, you can literally dump it as soon as you pour it in and you can still call it bourbon. If somebody does pull it out right at three, what does that taste like? Like we're drinking through today 12, 14. Like how would it taste at three?
We're seeing younger whiskeys hit the market. Younger whiskeys have a lot more energy. That's the way I describe them.
Okay.
Again, kind of what are we looking for? You'll see some younger age statements with heavily peated whiskeys because that smoke is going to be a lot more powerful at a younger age than it might be at an older age statement. So you are seeing some younger age statements out there, but traditionally, single malt Scotch in this era, you're looking at those 10s and 12s and 15s, 18, etc. But younger whiskey is very vibrant. Sometimes those edges have not been rounded off, so it's a little bit more sharp on the palate. The ABV can be higher. Again, if you're having a smokier whiskey, if you're maturing a smokier whiskey, you'll see it to be a little bit more intense than if it was, let's say, 15, 18 years of age. So you don't see too many 3-year-old whiskeys, but there are some out there. You see new distilleries open up that want to get a product on the shelf, and it's a lot of fun. That's the kind of going back to what we were saying. We're in this golden age where people want to try all these really interesting things or something they haven't tried before. And there is a place for younger whiskeys for sure. But traditionally they are kind of in that, 10, 12, 15-year age range.
I love the way you said sharper flavors. So I completely get what you mean. Like it's not going to be polished. And there is a market for it right now because there is someone out there that will inevitably love that lack of polish and love those sharp notes on it. But I hear you in terms of that's why the low and slow exists.
Yeah, yeah, and there's also, I mean, there's ways to kind of tweak that as well. If you use a smaller cask, like a quarter cask, you get more surface area within the barrel, so you're getting faster maturation as well. So again, it's really what each distillery is looking for and what they want to put out there. And there's again touch points to tweak what they can do.
It's always interesting the science that we've used to try and like you're used like what you just referenced is just literal math, like smaller, more wood to the liquid. I'm sure if I have, you have as well. You've gotten some of those science experiments sent your way, where it's like we've used this right here, which as I read the description, I read it in like uh 9.99 for 9.99. Like I read it in like the quick infomercial voice, just because
Yeah,
it's like we have taken what would have taken 18 years and we've confined it to 9 months. It's like, no, you didn't.
yeah,
No, I love that you think you did, but
yeah.
you can't speed up the good old low and slow that you get when you're putting whiskey aged in barrels over long periods of time.
Exactly, exactly. That I mean, that's a perfect kind of description of the Oban distillery because it is such a small distillery and it does take so much time to produce our spirit. Sometimes, we have an 18-year as an example, and a lot of people thought that was discontinued. We just had actually ran out. It was an exclusive for the US, and we're waiting for more inventory to become available, more stock to become available. And hopefully that should be not too far in the distant future. But again, to your point, we're just waiting for it. You can't rush it. So yeah, when
I
it's ready.
love that though, because that shows uh, integrity in the brand, right? Like you're not going to put it out if it's not ready. The same way that you've learned that you put this with this barrel because you get the flavor profile that you're looking for that specific brand.
Mhm.
It's that integrity that I think uh, we've already gone through the age of marketing to the consumer absolutely whatever we think they want to hear to get them to buy it. And that's over. I think people can smell that now when you hear some wonderful story about somebody that may or may not have lived 150 years ago. Now we, as a consumer base, we want that authenticity. We want to see that integrity that we can't have it right now because it's not ready. And when it's ready, it'll be exactly what you want it to be because we've put the time in to make it as good as we know it can be.
Agreed, agreed. There is a line which I'm going to credit Sarah for putting this line out there in the universe, but I use it all the time, specifically with Oban. There's a comfort in its quality, so people know what they're going to get. And from a flavor standpoint, again, whether you're new to the category or have been drinking single malts your whole adult life, everyone just really, really enjoys it, and it gives them comfort knowing what's in that bottle. They know what they're going to get.
1,000%. It's that comfort level that you want them to have because you're not selling the first bottle, you're selling the whatever you guys are on now.
That's right.
You noted the size of the distillery. What outside of the ability to take their time and put that attention to detail into the brand and the bottles that you got and the expressions you're creating, what does the size of the distillery, what impact does it have on production? Like we just talked quality, but you guys are pumping out a gigantic amount of liquid. Like how does the size come into play?
Yeah, I mean, so again, because of its location, Oban's sitting in the town of Oban, which actually the distillery named the town itself. I think the village has year round about 15,000 people that actually live there, but it actually jumps up to about 40 or 50,000 people in the summer. And they wanted to expand the distillery. 1794 is when it opened. And in the 1890s, they wanted to expand. And because they're right on the coastline, they couldn't go forward. So they actually tried to go backwards. And even in the 1890s, what they ended up finding were these caves with Mesolithic artifacts in them. And even in the 1890s, they go, you're not going any further. So as the distillery started to grow, it couldn't actually expand, and the village started to kind of make its way around it. So we kind of boxed ourselves in. So we only have two stills. So for single malt Scotch production, you need a minimum of two stills. And to put that into kind of like, terms of some of the larger distilleries, some of them will have, upwards of 20 stills. Some of the larger distilleries will put out millions of liters a year. We can't do that because, again, very, very small production. There's a fun little fact that I always like to talk about when we do Oban tastings. There's only a handful of people that actually make the whiskey at Oban, even though it's this product that everybody has seen and knows that are single malt Scotch drinkers. You can find it in a lot of different places, from dive bars to high-end restaurants, but only 7 people actually make the whiskey at the Oban distillery. So again, because of this, because of the size, we can't put out as much as consumer demand. And I always like to say, when you're in larger markets, whether that's New York, Texas, California, Florida, et cetera, you get to see Oban all the time. And some of the smaller markets don't get a chance to have access to Oban because of that, because there's only so much. And then you have something like I mentioned, the 18. Those are U.S. exclusives, and that happens as well, where you have expressions only for the U.S. So we find our ways to try to get as much out there as we can. But again, we don't want to rush that process and kind of change anything as far as the quality and flavor profile of the Oban whiskey.
Goes back to the integrity we were talking about. And as people, it's such an interesting demo, the whiskey drinker, because once they find out they can't have it, then that's all they want. So
Yeah.
the 18 years, probably it's gone before you guys even get it back out on the shelf, because there are people looking for it,
I tell people all the time, if you see the 18 anywhere, just grab it. Just grab it. I was in Miami not too long ago, and I saw it on a back bar, and I had to order a dram just because
Of
I hadn't seen
course.
it.
You see that unicorn, you take a sip of that unicorn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You let them know what they have, and then they get really excited about it, and then that's a fun conversation too.
Well, in terms of what they're looking for, like, tell me a little bit about the general Scotch consumer. Like with whiskey, I mean, with bourbon, I can tell you every category that whoever likes what falls into.
Mhm.
How have you seen over the course of the past 50 years Scotch as a medium, as its own category, grow? I know we've seen the boom. Everybody has experienced the renaissance of whiskey that we're in right now. Walk me through. Did Scotch have that same downturn that bourbon had? Did James Bond come for Scotch as it came for the rest of the whiskey world? Walk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, I love the history of single malt Scotch, and if you kind of follow the timeline, it has its ups and downs, over the last 150, 200 years, and kind of when you talk to consumers of Scotch whiskey, if we talk to our parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, if anybody was drinking Scotch, let's say in the 1980s, 1970s, really it was going to be a blended Scotch whiskey. And it was really the blends that took Scotch whiskey global. Even though you have all of these single malt Scotch distilleries, single malt Scotch was really only enjoyed within its infancy in Scotland. It wasn't until the blending boom of the late 1800s, early 1900s, where it started to actually go global. And there were some kind of tweaks along the way, as far as production, for a variety of reasons, whether that was the First World War, Second World War, Prohibition in the United States. There's all these things that have happened through over time that, from a single malt Scotch perspective, that allow it to kind of like jump up and down as far as its popularity. But after World War II, Scotch whiskey, blended Scotch whiskey became quite popular in the US and it started to grow.
And
But
walk people through the difference between like there's so many words that we all share in Scotch sense, blended Scotch versus single malt, just so everybody's got their learning shoes on.
absolutely great. So, single malt Scotch is a vertical line. The single and single malt means it's a single distillery and it's a single grain. So, it's those three ingredients, yeast, barley, and water, all coming from one distillery. And I always describe that as the solo act. It's a very specific flavor profile. It tends to be a little bit more pronounced. It doesn't have to be, but it's very, very specific and it's all coming from one place. Blended Scotch whiskey is very much a horizontal line, and it's whiskeys coming from different distilleries, single malts and grains, and then married together. And the beautiful thing about blended Scotch whiskey is that it's the whole orchestra. And it's a lot of flavor, a lot of balance to it. And there are some amazing, amazing blended Scotch whiskeys out there. We have our Johnny Walker, that's part of our portfolio that everybody is familiar with. We were pouring Buchanan's just over the weekend, and that's one of ours as well. So that's the biggest difference between a single malt Scotch and a blended Scotch whiskey. So after World War II, you start to see blended Scotch whiskey really take shape in the US up until about the 1980s, where it started to dip a little bit. Whiskey in general, I mean, there was a big vodka craze that we all know in the 1980s into the 1990s. And it was really the early 2000s, even though single malt Scotch whiskey was enjoyed globally. But we start to see in the early 2000s and like 2010, this explosion of single malt Scotch whiskey and this desire to try all of these distilleries that the consumer hadn't tried in the past. And it's a lot of it has to do with flavor profiles. A lot of it has to do with people looking for, genuine stories and richer flavors and something new. So really, again, starting in the 2000s, we see single malt scotches really take off. Oban, even though the distillery is from 1794, the 14 that we all know and love didn't really hit the shelves until 1988.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So the same with some of our other distilleries, where there was something called the classic malts, and they put this called a kit, about 5 or 6 different distilleries together, showcasing regionality for the very first time. So again, 1988 isn't that long ago in the grand scheme of Scotch production, whiskey production. What is that, 35 years ago or so? So 40 years ago.
With some change, yeah.
Yeah. So you're starting to see um, different regions, different flavor profiles. What is a whiskey from the Highlands supposed to taste like? What is a whiskey from Islay supposed to taste like? And we're still very much in that, in that kind of phase of getting these beautiful whiskeys, these beautiful flavor profiles to the consumer.
But I love that. I love how you guys have been able to put that regionality to it and expand on it so that when people are talking, they can use it almost as a descriptor. And you know exactly which profile they're talking about when they say, "Oh, it's an Isla." So okay, I associate that with this right here.
Mhm.
Uh, with bourbon, there was a like you can pinpoint it almost to current interest falls within the cocktail craze of the early 2000s. What would you attribute? Is there one single point where you saw that interest coming out of single malts in the early 2000s? Or was it just that consumer looking for something new and they found awesome when they found Oban, when they found Lagavulin, when they found all of these great brands that maybe they didn't know about prior?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. From my perspective, it was this gradual build to try these different distilleries. And then you see the distilleries themselves start to pivot. What was essentially a factory, if we really want to simplify it, They start to see that there's an excitement behind what they're making. So visitor centers start to open in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and that's still happening today. They're even tweaking that so much where if you don't have time to do an entire tour, you can just stop in, and they have this beautiful area where you can kind of sample a few things. So they're adjusting to the consumer for what they're looking for. So from my perspective, it has been this gradual build into kind of really, I don't want to say, finding out about it, but in a way, there's a lot of people out there that are new to the category and they're learning, and more people want kind of that experience where, they can learn about the history and really kind of go down that path of what else is out there, whether it's American whiskeys or Scotch whiskeys.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk to you today, because as all of us are looking for that new authenticity, the palate craves that real, and that's what, as you extend into the other categories, you find. I
Mhm.
love the idea that you guys are now following. I wouldn't say following suit, but there has definitely been that shift towards building out the entire experience, not
Mhm.
just the experience at home, but when you come out to the distillery, like you just said, you can take the tour, you can visit here's our wares, here's everything you need to know everything about us, all in the journey to and from the visit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And whether or not it's our flagship 14 year or some of our limited releases or cocktails, again, really trying to give the consumer a way to enjoy single malt scotch, whether it's neat or a cocktail, whether it's a visit to Scotland. It's really, enjoy our distillery, enjoy our product.
Well, that's one of the questions I had for you. Scotch cocktails, I know classic scotch and soda. Like, is it blasphemy? Like it just seems with a single malt, it's so good. And I don't want to be closed-minded here because I think anything has its day if done correctly. But is there a stigma around putting it into a cocktail and mixing it with something, or is it just that do it the right way and you'll appreciate it?
I think it's the latter. Do it the right way and you'll appreciate it. I always look at it two ways, again, really trying to simplify it, where if you're drinking for appreciation, if you want to learn about a specific distillery, a specific flavor profile, a specific region, then neat, of course, maybe a few drops of water, really sit and savor and think about it and break it down. I'm sure, we all, take our notes and contemplate and question this and why would they do that? And what am I picking up here? Is that vanilla? Is that caramel? All these things. But then if you're trying to really experience it through appreciation, if you don't want to try something neat or sit there with a single malt for an hour and really break it down. Every event that I do and every event that we do within Diageo, we have a welcome cocktail. We
Love it.
do Oban paper planes. We do
Ooh.
old fashions. We do a riff on it's called the Highland Gold. So it's a riff on the Gold Rush. So it's all these really fun, exciting ways to sample the whiskey. I was in Miami a couple of months ago and it's 85 degrees and I was sitting outside at this beautiful restaurant. I didn't necessarily want a neat pour in 85 degrees, but I
Sure.
had Oban 14 as a highball and it's refreshing and effervescent and it just works. So whatever is going to give you the most appreciation is the way I look at it, whether that's neat cocktail, couple drops of water, whatever works for you.
Love that answer. Never close yourself off to a better time
Yeah, yeah.
if
And
it's
the
if it's out there.
quality of ingredients too is something I always talk about. We're going to these restaurants, everyone's trying to really be unique and exciting from a kind of culinary perspective. But you're seeing higher quality ingredients when we go out to eat. Same thing with cocktails, You'll see single malt scotches that have a little bit of an age statement on them going into a cocktail because it can be a higher quality ingredient for them in the cocktail.
1,000%. Had someone walking me through a cocktail that used a spirit that was just like most consumers would be like, wait, 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 don't do that, don't do that. But the way he explained it was exactly what you just said. He's like, if this is so good and you're trying to make the best cocktail that you can,
Mhm.
if you use base, you get base sometimes. And if you want top shelf, you can't get 97 octane out of 87 product.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that logic so much. And now that we've talked about it this much, I'm also like now kind of wondering if you might want to have a drink with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, we've been talking Oban. Let's drink some Oban.
Let's drink some Oban. Do you have the 14 in front of you?
I do. Yes, we've got the 14, 15, and the 12. So where should we start?
So I say this all the time. If we haven't had the 14 in a while or before, we are going to start there. This is the foundation to the distillery. I have it pre-poured myself. I think my background is blurred, so it might be in and out. But this is our flagship. This is the whiskey that was launched in the late 1980s to represent the distillery. Oban 14, as I mentioned earlier, is one of these whiskeys that you can find almost anywhere. People know it, people love it. Again, there's that comfort in its quality, which is that line that I love to use for this. But one of the things that we like to do is when we break down a whiskey, as I'm sure you've been to a million whiskey tastings, and we look at the color. For single malt Scotch, the color is really going to indicate the style of cask that we're using for maturation. So lighter in color, leans more American oak ex-bourbon cask, darker in color. Sometimes you'll see a whiskey that's almost like Coca-Cola. Those are going to be your sherry casks. And in this case, we use refill casks at Oban. So it has this beautiful golden hue to it. It's very bright. It has a little bit of a kind of a dash of orange in there as well, as far as kind of color, but it's got that dark golden, beautiful color to it. And then when we nose it, a lot of times when I do a tasting with this expression, because orchard fruits are a big flavor profile within this spirit. And the reason for that is when we go through production, we're talking about all these touch points with maturation. When you look at fermentation for single malt Scotch, again, we're using those three ingredients, yeast, barley, and water. You take that barley, you mash it up, you get this beautiful kind of soupy kind of porridge thing happening. And then you take that liquid, which is called wort, and then you ferment it. And we're using yeast to ferment, and the yeast, the longer you ferment, the different flavors you'll pull out of your final spirit. So if you ferment for about 45, 50 hours, you're going to have all the alcohol that you need, and that's going to be about 8 or 9% ABV. But if you stop fermentation at that point, which we do at a lot of our distilleries, you get this malty, nutty flavor profile. If you push to over 100 hours, which we do with the Oban 14, you get these beautiful orchard fruit notes. You get vanilla, you get this honey. There's a slight spice in there. And a lot of times when I taste people on this for the first time, they think it's a cognac or an Armagnac. That's how much apple they're pulling from it. So this is my first, it's 11:48 here. So this is my first dram of the day. And it really, if it's your first dram as well, you should get all those beautiful kind of red apple skins, pears, honey notes coming through.
And you 1000% do. I think one of my favorite parts about Oban is exactly that. And the consistency where every time when you're in the need for some of that orchard goodness, it comes through every time.
Yeah, yeah. Should we take a sip?
Let's do it.
Cheers, cheers.
Cheers. Man, this is the one that when people ask me, I'm just getting started on my own Scotch journey, where should I go? I always recommend Oban just because it's going to it's going to give them something outside of maybe their normal drinking habit, but they're going to get so much and it's going to be so inviting. Like it's
Yeah,
not harsh. It doesn't have those sharp edges like we were talking about earlier. It is a straight up fruit bomb where everything from like even the hints of all of the hints that fall into it with the honey and the apple peel and you can pull out so much from it, and
yeah,
then to also have a hint of ocean in there. is just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, there's always that maritime note within the Oban product. That kind of there's a hint of brine, but it's really kind of that, that ocean maritime kind of flavor. I always describe this one from a flavor standpoint as right in the middle, and that's not a knock by any means. It's
No,
really going back to your point, that new single malt Scotch drinker, that bourbon drinker, the American whiskey drinker, or the connoisseur of single malts. What time of day is it? What am I in the mood for? Do I want something soft, approachable? Again, I think I mentioned it when we got started. People ask me all the time, what's my favorite expression from Oban? This is it. I can bring this to a holiday, a birthday party, and it's everyone that's going to want to drink whiskey is going to enjoy this expression.
good Lord. And then you go back for more and it just adds to like palate primed with first sip and palate expands with second sip. And it just man, it keeps on going. This is Energizer Bunny right here. And you were talking about cocktails a minute ago. I had a whiskey Hall of Famer, just a name drop. I won't throw him on blast here. He turned me on to, if you're making a highball, have it with ramen. Like he's like, I can't have ramen now without a Scotch highball. And I am like, okay, or a single malt highball. And
Yeah.
and I could see this lending itself beautifully to a hot day highball.
Yeah. I love that. I love that for sure. Yeah, it's a really approachable spirit. Has enough complexity in there as well that it's really gonna kind of be a favorite for a lot of whiskey drinkers.
Well, it's fun because you get to go through it and it doesn't there are peaks and valleys to the flavors that you get, but all of them are inviting. And I'm thinking of the like in Scotch, you'll that sometimes if you're in the mood for some smoke, there's more than enough brands that'll light you up.
Yeah.
And this guy right here, he is just taking you on consistent freaking upward climb towards more flavor with each pour.
Yeah. I
Man.
agree. Agreed.
So if this is where we are starting,
Yeah.
and this Oban 14 is our base for what we're tasting through here,
Mhm.
where do we go next?
Let's go to the 12-year Heart of the Harbor special release, which I see. Yep, you have right there.
And now immediately you can see, even from the bottles, that the 14 is darker than the 12. You were
Yep.
saying a moment ago that if it's been in different casks, that it could influence the color.
Sure.
Tell me about this guy.
So this is part of what's called our special releases, which we do annually. We take about 8 or 9 of our distilleries within our portfolio, and we have over 30 single malt Scotch distilleries in our portfolio. And I always like to describe it as this annual release. We take the distilleries we know, like the Obans and Taliskers and Lagavulins, and we showcase the style and maturation in a different way. And we do that with distilleries that we don't necessarily know or get a chance to sample as often either. Now, over the last couple of years, Oban has experimented with sherry cask maturation, wine cask maturation, which we'll try that as the last pour, which I wanted to leave for last because really, really excited about that one as well. But this is called the Heart of the Harbor. This is our idea of returning home to those refill casks, to the ex-bourbon casks, to really kind of dial up the sweetness, the viscosity, and kind of those beautiful custardy vanilla notes that we got in the 14. But this is at cask strength, and the ABV on this is 54.7. So again, their special releases will showcase experimentation from some of our distilleries. This was released at the end of last year. This is 2025's release. So what are you getting from this?
Oh my goodness. It's a stark departure from the 14 in the best possible way, because you're getting I spice. Like I'm getting hints of spice off the top of this. Like I likening it to I'm trying to think of like the time of year. I'm likening it to the end of year. It's cold outside. You're looking for some comfort in the food that you're eating. Like it's falling into that category for me on the nose.
Yeah. We were talking about younger whiskeys, Jesse. One of the things from a flavor standpoint that you'll also get from a younger whiskey, and this is our 12-year expression. So it's not, young by single malt standards, but
Right.
you get a lot of malty notes in younger whiskeys. So you get this kind of baked bread, grainy type of thing happening on my nose.
Okay, so that would make sense then. That's why I'm getting that comfort food vibe from the nose.
Yep. Yep. Now again, the ABV is a little higher, so there's a little bit of a prickle, but not overpowering.
No, the alcohol doesn't really come out of the nose. Like there's nothing harsh about the nose. Like
Mhm.
it's still inviting. You're still getting uh, the core characteristics that you would want from a Scotch. There's just something on top of it that's pushing it in that delicious category. Like it's still that I want to get in here uh, coming off the top.
Yeah, yeah. And again, remember orchard fruits are always at the base, at the foundation
Mm-hmm.
of everything Oban. And this has that kind of vanilla on top of it. I'm going to take a sip. I haven't had this one in a while, so I'm going to take a sip when I'm
I
uh,
this is my first time having this. I've saved. I knew I hadn't had this before, so I saved to have it with you.
cheers. Welcome.
Cheers.
Thank you. Much bigger up front.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Huge up front.
Mhm.
Like the notes are dancing, like right on that tip of tongue mid palate range, just sitting there, sugars popping. You definitely know you've got Oban. You definitely know you have Oban in the glass right off the bat. I'm Southern. The long A comes out sometimes. I'm getting more like we orchard fruits still right there, getting
Mhm.
more pear off this one than I did in the last one. Like I
Yeah,
got more apple off of the Oban 14, and I'm getting more like beautifully sugar pear off
yeah,
of this one.
yeah. This to me is because of that kind of custard vanilla thing that's also happening. Again, it's really dialing up the sweetness. Um, Very big up front for me. A little bit of spice. Again, the ABV is higher. This,
You
go-
okay? So that okay? I was getting the spice. You're sitting there. I am in uncharted territory right now, Greg. I tell people to say what comes to the top of their mind all the time, and this is not. I'm not a Scotch expert. Like I know my bourbons. I know how that works. But I got spice, and I still had that moment of, "Am I wrong?" And that is so exciting to still be able to wonder. You know what I mean?
sure.
Because
Yeah.
I got it. I didn't say it because I'm like, Greg knows what he's talking. It's the same thing we all have felt at some point in whiskey where I'm going to stay quiet in case I'm wrong. To everybody, that is why when you taste it, you say it, because if it's what your palate got, it's what's there for you. It doesn't have. Greg would have. He would have recognized that that's what I was getting if I'd have said it or not. If I'd have been right or wrong.
Yeah.
So that I love that. I've not had that happen in so long.
Yeah, there are really no wrong answers to your point. Whatever it's taking you towards is the right answer.
And that's what
I've
I was stumbling through when I was trying to like not say spice, but I was like, it's that time of year when it's cold and you're looking for comfort. I'm like, how do I say spice without saying spice?
it's no, you nailed it. You nailed it. I mean, I always and I'm guilty of not doing it every time, but I always like to say this is what I'm getting.
Right, right,
Kind
right,
of
right, 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 right.
your kind of, experience, but it really is what are you going to experience? What are you going to get from it?
This finish is also out of this world. Like as it hits and as it starts finishing up, there is a wonderful the breathe out on
Yeah.
this one where the finish connects to the palate and you kind of get a full body experience, like not full body, but a full bodied experience with what you're getting out of this one. And it
Yeah.
is right. Oh man, that is beautiful.
And this too, to how best to enjoy it, experiment with water. I know a lot of American whiskeys, bourbon whiskeys, at cask strength, you experiment with water. This is exactly the same experience. 54.7 isn't, as high as some of the whiskeys that are out there. I mean, it's still a very powerful whiskey as far as ABV, but is it one or two drops to see what happens, how that experience, affects your response to it. So,
Oh, I'm absolutely enamored with this. For me, I don't like, I completely, I'm going to add a couple drops just to see what else I get out of it. But
yeah.
as it comes, how it poured is how I'm going to drink this because it is delicious.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, we really like this one a lot.
Mm. So for the consumer, for people that are going to listen to us and go just get these things because they're that damn good, how would you like what should be top of their mind? What should they be looking for as they open their mind and palate to what these deliver? We had we were both of the benefit that we're drinking it first thing in our poor day, so all of our instruments are ready and primed and ready to go. If someone is going to be taking their first shot at this 12-year goodness, how would you ask them to prime themselves before they get going?
That's a really great question. I mean, if I always like to have as much of an understanding about a brand as I can. So if they are able to try that 14 prior to, as we did, you'll have an idea of kind of the foundation to the distillery. When you start to kind of experiment with those limited releases, as the 12-year is, I think if you have that kind of initial understanding of the flagship expression, then you can start to really break down if that's the experience you're looking for. Okay, what did they do here that's slightly different? How is this different than the 14-year? I just did a whiskey club tasting here in the city a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of the people in the room are experienced whiskey drinkers, and I'm showcasing these cask strength Obans, which are new to them. So they would say, I've had Oban 14. I didn't know the 12-year existed. I didn't know the port cast finish was out there. And then you get to watch them take this ride and their
Right.
eyes open to, again, a distillery that people love. And then they see this really fun experimentation happening. And then that's a fun journey to experience as well.
I love how you explain that because that's exactly, having not had this before and having had so much whiskey over the course of my time in this industry, that was fun. Like
Oh,
that
I
was
love to hear that.
well, it's exactly what you're looking for. It's something different. You're
Yeah.
taking, and I hear you 1,000%. I would have not had context for what this is had we not started with the 14 and have the palate memory sort of primed for what Oban is.
Yeah. Yeah. I love to hear
Man,
that. Yeah. It's meant to be enjoyed and sip and savored and experienced.
1,000%. And I still can see these on a warm day. Like there's still something so I want to be outside while drinking this to them.
Hmm.
Man. Okay, so now we've had the 14. We've had this beautiful 2025 12-year. This thing shows up. We're going to finish strong. We're going to finish with the 15-year. I'm going to let you tell me about that, but I got to brag on it first because from the time it arrived, it is just like a Cadillac experience of it shows up in this specialty uh, container. And then when it's like Willy Wonka, this is a Willy Wonka presentation because you open it and then it's wrapped in this gorgeous like felt material. And then you unravel that and there's like a beautiful like Oban tapestry that it's wrapped in. Like the whole thing is just like 1, 2, 3 whiskey, and we've not even gotten to the whiskey yet, and you're already as a consumer impressed by if they've put this much time into the presentation of this whiskey, then
Hmm.
you know they're proud of it. And
Yeah.
and I just had to compliment you on that because it didn't just show up wrapped in wrapped in bubble wrap with a piece of tape on it. Like it came like, hey, guess what? We're getting ready to punch you in the mouth and you're going to like it.
So our Oban 15, which I have the bottle, I'm gonna grab it here. So the packaging that you received should be the smaller little bottle, yeah?
That is correct. Yep.
Perfect. Perfect. So for consumers out there, when they look for the 15 on the shelf, it is our traditional style 750 ml. This one we're really, really excited about. Um, Again, we've had the Oban 14 within the portfolio for a number of years. I mentioned that 18 that we're waiting for to return. And last year we experimented with an Oban 15-year sherry cask. And the response to that was we couldn't have expected a better response. It actually became the #2 whiskey of the year in Whiskey Advocate last year. So this year we have another 15-year. This is the one we have in front of us. And this is the Oban Port Cask finish. Now, I love all things port.
1,000%.
I advocate for port constantly. If you go out to dinner, forego dessert, have a glass of port, it'll be an amazing experience. And when you mature whiskey in a port cask, you get these flavor profiles that are rich and fruit forward and comforting. I don't think I've met anyone that's had an aversion to that flavor profile. So
And rich is the perfect way to say it. There's just always so much volume to flavor
yeah,
when you're dealing with a nice port finished.
absolutely, absolutely. So we are at the ABV on this, I think, is 52. I can't see it on here, but I believe it's around 52.1-ish.
That looks right.
And initially, we look at the color of this, and it's this almost blush rosé color. Again, you can't really see my glass, but I'll kind of hold it a little closer. And again, that's that port influence coming through. And on the nose,
Yeah,
orchard fruits, but then you get this beautiful raspberry kind of thing happening for
front
me.
and center. Yes, I'm right there with you. The berry is just it
Are
just
you?
jumps out at you.
There's a dessert, Jesse. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to try this. It's called Cranachan. It's a traditional Scottish dessert.
Okay.
When they sent me a sample of this a couple of months ago, because this 15 just came out last month, I want to say, and I nose it, and I get this vanilla, I get this raspberry, you get that toasted kind of toasted oak, malty kind of flavor profile. And if you ever get a chance to try Cranachan, it's whipped cream, oats, raspberries. It's almost Cranachan in a glass. That's what I get here.
Oh, I love it.
It's just this beautiful, rich, complex yet balanced flavor profile. And I'm going to go ahead and take a sip if you're ready.
Cheers. Mm. Having gone on this journey from 14 to where we are now with the 15, there is a volume to this one that is just above and beyond. Like the weight of this whiskey after sort of a lighter, sort of an airier touch, and then to go to the cask strength, which had the sharpness around the flavors, like that beautiful pop where it's like right there with you, and then to come here and for this one to have that volume, it's like a three-dimensional experience that you're having with the whiskey, where you're getting one. I mean, right, for whatever mood you're in.
Yeah.
Like I can see a place for all three of these in the week, in the vacation, in the wherever I'm at, where I can see this as your after dinner, hell yeah, pour.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're seeing too, this is a really fun flight to do because we have a 14, a 12, and a 15. So they're all roughly around the same age, but you're seeing how that cask influence affects the overall flavor profile for single malt Scotch. So with the 14, again, those orchard fruits distillery characters going to come through with those refill casks. We have on the 12 that we had this, that was the second pour, we have refill casks, ex-bourbon casks, and now you have refill casks and port casks. So you're seeing this really fun kind of dance between the different flavor profiles and how you can tweak them along the way. And the port cask, the one we're having right now, this one I'm super excited about. This one is really, really fun to pour and allow people to experience. And it's limited. So if you like it, you got to grab it. Same with the 12. I learned a long time ago, if you find something you like that's limited,
Get it.
get it. If you say, I'll come back later,
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think that's one of the early lessons learned when finding out what you like in whiskey. Go ahead and buy it up while you're there, because when you go back next week and say, oh my goodness, I absolutely loved the 15 year. Could I get another one? They're going to be like, yeah, you and everybody else that came in that day really enjoyed the 15 year, and we are out.
Yep.
The finish on this is also like after it's had a minute to settle, and of course immediately with the fruit forward pop that you get. But I like how it settles. I like the very end of it, where your palate is sitting there and the flavor notes that are lingering are refined. It's not too sugary. It's not drying me out. It's not doing anything that I don't want it to. There's no negative to that finish. It's just sitting there, and you're almost like primed for another pour, or primed to just enjoy, just to sit and let this be how it's a proper exclamation point to the end of some phenomenal whiskey.
Well put. Well put. Yeah. And again, kind of going back to those that know the brand, know the distillery, they know those flavor profiles. So even though we are experimenting with these different casks and tweaking that flagship 14 expression from a flavor standpoint, we don't want to veer too far off. We always want to stay true to that distillery character and have those casks, again, full circle, coming back together and nothing fighting with one another. It's what I refer to as seamless. A lot of complexity, but everything coming together.
Well, and you nailed it on the head. You never want what you're using to accentuate to overtake. Like, it's meant to heighten what you have already created, not to hide. And I think that's the difference between being the best you can be and trying to cover up a mistake. And people recognize that. And all of this comes together. I love to say that a good whiskey is like a Voltron of flavor. And you've used what you have at your disposal to pick up the whiskey and have it. It's supposed to be on the shoulders of your barrel, not to have the barrel be on the shoulders of the whiskey. And that's exactly what this is, because you're getting that Oban flavor profile, and then you're getting it heightened to 11 with what you've used to accentuate it.
Perfectly said.
Well, Greg, I have had an amazing start to my week. This is just, I love whiskey, and I love learning things I didn't already know about whiskey. You've taught me a handful of things about Scotch in this conversation. Come back and see us again. I would love to go deeper down the rabbit hole and drink some more with you in the future. So, Greg King, amazing talking to you, buddy.
Same. Thank you so much for having me. Anytime. I'd love to come back.
Hey, well, I'm gonna sit here and let my Monday take me wherever Oban wants it to take me, and then from there, Tuesday has a lot to live up to.
We're starting off the right way.
That's right. That's right. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.